While the US fusses over who is allowed to own their technology, China simply rolls out a drone that carries twice as many missiles and costs a third of the price. The CH-5 Rainbow is the embodiment of China's global strategy. It is a massive, heavy, and frighteningly effective tool built for countries that need serious firepower without the lecture on democracy. While Western counterparts are oversaturated with expensive sensors, the Rainbow relies on volume. It is not just a drone, it is a flying platform for neutralizing targets within a 10,000-kilometer radius, available to anyone with a checkbook and a runway. But behind this facade of accessibility lurks a monster whose sheer dimensions make the word stealth a joke, leaving enemy air defenses practically rubbing their hands in anticipation. This is not just a scout, it is a full-fledged Reaper, coming for a harvest of lives in regions where air defense is considered a luxury. The CH-5 is the pinnacle of the Chinese Rainbow series. Classified as a male, medium-altitude, long-endurance UAV, its objectives are purely cynical: hover in the sky for days, hunting for targets, and drench them in a hail of missiles without waiting for air support. Unlike light drones that operate on a hit-and-run basis, the CH-5 is built for total dominance. It functions as both an airborne command post and a heavy striker. The Chinese have created the perfect tool for counterinsurgency. It is too high for guerrillas with manpads to reach, but powerful enough to wipe out a small base or a convoy single-handedly. To carry such an arsenal, Chinese engineers had to build an airframe the size of a full-scale fighter, turning it into a giant target made of carbon fiber. The wingspan of this little guy is larger than that of a business jet, and its weight allows it to ignore the turbulence that knocks smaller UAVs off course. The CH-5 is a true giant among drones. With a wingspan of 21 meters, it looks like a proper airplane in the sky rather than a buzzing gadget. A maximum takeoff weight of 3,300 kilograms puts it in the big leagues. It is 3 times heavier than the Turkish TB2. This weight isn't for show. It provides a stable platform for high-precision optics and allows for a ton of payload. This is no longer a mosquito fleet. It is a battleship in the world of UAVs. However, such dimensions make it visible to any radar from the 1970s, turning the drone into a massive flying bullseye if the enemy has anything more serious than a machine gun. To keep such a carcass from collapsing under its own weight, the Chinese had to master technologies usually reserved for space stations. The Chinese have learned to bake aircraft as mass-productively as smartphones, using pressure and heat to make the fuselage stronger than steel. The CH-5 airframe consists almost entirely of high-tech composites. Instead of heavy aluminum rivets and frames, it features solid cast parts produced through autoclave molding. This hot-pressing method turns carbon fiber and specialized resins into a monolithic structure under immense pressure. The result is a drone that is incredibly light for its size but remains rigid. This diet allows China to claim their Rainbow is tougher and more durable than Western competitors. Essentially, it is a giant carbon shell that is immune to corrosion and can withstand loads that would twist a metal plane into a tailspin. Despite the space-age body materials, this behemoth is powered by an engine that runs on the same fuel as an army truck or a farm tractor. Its motor doesn't require elite aviation gasoline. It digests ordinary diesel, while its AI-based brain allows it to command an entire swarm of smaller drones. The heart of the CH-5 is a 330 horsepower piston engine running on heavy fuel. It is a logistical stroke of genius. The drone can be refueled with the same kerosene or diesel used by the tanks below, without waiting for specialized supplies. But the real magic is inside: advanced AI. The Rainbow doesn't just fly between waypoints, it operates as a network hub. The drone can swarm with junior models, CH-3, CH-4, distributing targets among them and acting as a flying headquarters. It is no longer just a weapon, but a battlefield manager that decides who to paint with a laser and who to leave to its wingmen. This lack of pickiness regarding fuel and high intelligence allows the machine to hover overhead longer than a standard office work week. This drone can take off on Monday morning and return on Wednesday evening, never taking its eyes off the target until the guard's nerves snap. The CH-5 is a true marathon runner. With a flight range of up to 10,000 kilometers and a 60-hour endurance, it turns the concept of aerial loitering into a nightmare for the adversary. In a reconnaissance configuration, it can stay airborne for 2.5 days without refueling. This allows it to do more than just fly by. It literally moves in over the operation area. At altitudes up to 9 kilometers, it remains out of reach for most manpads, methodically exhausting the enemy with its presence. For the operator, this means having the luxury to wait for the perfect moment to strike, when the target relaxes, thinking the danger has passed. Such endurance makes it the perfect killer from above. But the irony is that the CH-5 is essentially a very diligent and bold attempt by China to cover an American classic for half the price. Engineers from CAAA didn't need to reinvent the wheel. ILS simply took the American Reaper, stripped it down to the last screw, and decided to do everything the same, but with a cherry on top. The CH-5 was born as a direct answer to the American MQ-9 Reaper. Beijing realized the world was lining up for US strike drones, but Washington was too picky about its customers. The idea was simple: create an aircraft that looks and functions almost identically to the Reaper, but surpasses it in areas key to the buyer. The Chinese increased the payload capacity, allowing the drone to carry up to 16 missiles compared to the original's 4 to 8, and radically slashed the price. It is a classic Chinese brand killer. It offers 120% of the capability for 40% of the cost, turning an elite weapon into an accessible mass-market product. The real killer feature of this copy isn't the electronics, but how many tons of explosives it can hang under its wings, becoming a flying ammunition depot. Where the American Reaper needs 2 sorties, the Chinese Rainbow handles it in 1, raining down a warehouse's worth of high-precision metal on the enemy. The main pride of the CAAA engineers is the 6 hardpoints which, thanks to dual and quad racks, turn into 16 missile positions. The primary caliber is the AR-1 air-to-ground missile and its lightweight version, the AR-2. These are specialized drone missiles, light, accurate, and lethal. If something heavier is required, FT-7 precision-guided bombs are used. The total external load can reach 800 kilograms. This allows the CH-5 to operate in a surgical carpet bombing mode. It can take out an entire tank company or several fortified checkpoints in a single pass without returning to base for seconds. But all this power would be a waste of expensive hardware if the CH-5 didn't know how to turn old primitive drones into its obedient slaves. The CH-5 is not just a lone hunter, it is a swarm matriarch that turns cheap old drones into its extra eyes and claws. The primary technological feat of the Rainbow is its joint operations capability. Thanks to a powerful computing suite and AI, the CH-5 can act as an airborne command post. It takes control of older, cheaper models, like the CH-3 or CH-4, integrating them into a single network. The Big Brother loiters at a safe altitude, analyzing the battlefield and painting targets with a laser, while the younger units move in for dangerous close proximity strikes. This preserves the lifespan of the expensive flagship while using its intelligence to make primitive machines deadly. Essentially, it is a prototype for the future of warfare, where one brain controls an entire cloud of obedient executors. However, for such a neural network to function, it requires more than just advanced software. It needs specific conditions on the ground, without which this giant can't even leave the concrete. This drone can't be launched from a knee or a catapult. It requires a full-fledged airfield and a supply chain that would make a small factory jealous. Operating the CH-5 requires serious infrastructure. This is no guerrilla tool. A 3-ton behemoth demands a high-quality concrete runway and a sophisticated ground control station. But the primary dependency is technological. The production and repair of the airframe are impossible without specialized epoxy resins for the composites, which provide that essential structural rigidity. Furthermore, high-integration microchips are critical for implementing the swarm and command post functions. If the supply chain for these components or specific chemistry is interrupted, this high-tech drone will quickly turn into a very expensive and stationary decoration at the edge of an airfield. Despite the complexity of maintenance, the list of CH-5 buyers is growing faster than the number of sanctions against China. as the Rainbow has already proven its effectiveness in real combat. China sells its striking fists to those whom Western countries reject for ethical reasons, turning the world's flashpoints into a testing ground for the Rainbow. The CH-5 has already left a significant mark on global conflicts. In Iraq, it became the scythe that mowed down ISIS militants while the Americans haggled over the supply of their own systems. In Nigeria, the drone methodically destroyed Boko Haram camps in jungles where conventional aviation was powerless. Saudi Arabia and Egypt use it for border control and strikes in Yemen, specifically valuing its autonomy. The CH-5 can wait for hours for a weapons caravan to move into the open. Even in Ethiopia, this drone played a key role in turning the tide of the civil war. Beijing asks no questions about human rights. It simply delivers the containers, assembles the aircraft, and trains the operators, making the CH-5 the primary tool for restoring order in the hands of regional leaders. Such popularity on the black market and in conflict zones confirms that China has created the Kalashnikov rifle of the heavy UAV world, simple, powerful, and unburdened by morality. In a world where US dominance rested on high technology and moralizing, China simply opened a supermarket where deadly rainbows are sold wholesale and with no questions asked. The CH-5 is more than just a drone. It is a symbol of the end of the Western monopoly on high-tech warfare. The Chinese have proven that good doesn't necessarily have to be incredibly expensive. By releasing a heavy striker onto the market that second and third world countries can afford, Beijing has changed the rules of the game. Now, any country with a minimal budget can obtain a strategic advantage that was previously available only to superpowers. The CH-5 Rainbow is a triumph of quantity over quality and pragmatism over politics. It has made the skies over Africa and the Middle East Chinese without issuing a single official diplomatic note. The Rainbow has become the perfect embodiment of Chinese expansion. Quiet, effective, and filling every available space while competitors are busy discussing values. It is a drone that doesn't just fight, it rewrites the political map of the world, turning Beijing into the premier arms dealer of the digital age.